You're heating up leftovers in that plastic container, right? Well, you might also be heating up cancer-causing chemicals. And no, the microwave-safe label isn't enough. Microwaving plastic is something almost all of us do. But here's the catch. Heat causes plastic to break down, releasing toxic chemicals into your food, especially if the plastic is old, stained, or scratched. Bisphenol A, or BPA, a known endocrine disruptor that can negatively affect the development of a baby's brain and nervous system, can also increase the risk of breast cancer and reproductive issues in women.
What's worse, BPA has been linked to heart problems like atherosclerosis and coronary artery disease. But even BPA-free plastics can contain other harmful chemicals like BPS, which may be just as harmful. So what are we to do? Well, before we get to that, here's one thing you should know about how food is made. When manufacturers produce plastic, they typically start with compounds called monomers, which are small molecules. These monomers are then linked together in long chains, creating polymers, which are the building blocks of plastic.
Polymers are the materials that are used to make plastic food packaging. The most common types of plastic polymers include polyethylene terephthalate, PET or PETI, high-density polyethylene, HDPE, polyvinyl chloride, PVC, polystyrene, PS, and polypropylene, PP. Now, let's talk about those nasty chemicals that can seep into our food from the plastic we use every day. First, there's BPA, which was invented in 1891 and was used to make the epoxy resins and the plastic polycarbonate. The most common uses for BPA are in the lining of metal products such as food cans, bottle tops, and water supply lines. But did you know that BPA has been linked to serious health problems like developmental issues in fetuses, infants, and young children, behavioral changes, brain development problems, and increased risk of breast cancer and prostate gland problems in men, and lastly, heart disease? And while BPA has been restricted from use in sippy cups, bottles, and baby formula packaging, it can still be found in many places where you least expect it, including the receipt paper at your local store. That's why it's important to avoid handling receipts too much or storing anything, especially food, on them. And be sure to use caution when you have to, like when you're returning something. Don't let the receipt come in contact with your skin or clothing. And once you get home, throw it in the trash right away instead of leaving it lying around. Also, some cash register tapes are made without BPA, so ask your local retailer if they can switch to the safer tape. You can also look for a green dot on the receipt tape roll. This indicates that the receipt meets certain standards set by the Food and Drug Administration regarding the amount of BPA allowed in the manufacturing process. But this doesn't mean that these receipts are entirely BPA-free. They simply have a lower level of BPA than other receipts, which may reduce the risk of exposure. If you work in retail and are constantly handling receipts, consider switching to electronic transactions whenever possible. Next, we have phthalates, which are a group of chemicals that are used to make plastic more flexible and harder. They're commonly used in toys, medical devices, electronics, adhesives, paints, food packaging, air fresheners, shampoos, soaps, and even nail polish. But did you know that these useful chemicals are hormone disruptors, meaning that they can interfere with the way that hormones work in our bodies? For example, studies have shown that some phthalates can decrease male fertility by affecting testosterone production and increasing estrogen levels in men. They've also been linked to birth defects in animal studies. When heated, certain phthalates like DEP and DBP can easily leach into food, especially if it's fatty or oily. So if you're heating up leftovers in plastic containers or eating takeout from fast food restaurants, you may be inadvertently ingesting these potentially harmful chemicals. But don't worry, there are plenty of ways you can protect yourself against phthalate exposure. Like ditching the plastic squeeze bottles for shampoo and shower gel. Opt for glass containers instead. Make sure your kitchen is well ventilated to prevent chemical buildup, especially when cooking with oils or fats. And always read labels carefully when buying personal care or cleaning products. If a product contains ingredients like DEP, DBP, BBP, or DINP, try to find an alternative that doesn't. And last but certainly not least, we have microplastics, which are tiny plastic particles that are less than 5 millimeters in size. Over time, These particles can break off from larger plastic items and contaminate the environment, including our food and water supply. Microplastics can enter our bodies through ingestion or inhalation, and they can cause physical damage to cells and tissues. But they can also cause problems by interfering with hormones and other important molecules in our bodies. Plus, microplastics can carry other potentially harmful chemicals, and when they enter the body, they can release these chemicals into our tissues. Microplastic pollution is everywhere, from the clothes we wear to the water we drink to the food we eat. These particles are often found in plastic packaging and food processing equipment. And as you've probably guessed, heating food in plastic containers can cause even more microplastics to break down and leach into your meal. Now, once they're inside your body, it's unclear exactly where these particles end up. Some research suggests that they can accumulate in organs like the liver and intestines, while others show that they can end up in the lymphatic system and travel throughout the body. Unfortunately, because microplastics are so tiny, filtering them out of our blood or other bodily fluids is extremely difficult, making removal almost impossible. But there are steps we can take to limit our exposure and reduce their impact on our health, like avoiding single-use plastics and choosing reusable alternatives like cloth bags, metal straws, and glass water bottles. And here's a pro tip. When shopping for seafood, choose fish that hasn't been raised in plastic-lined tanks or ponds, as these fish are more likely to contain plastic in their bodies. Instead, opt for fish from sustainable sources that haven't been exposed to plastic waste. Now, you're probably wondering, what does microwave safe even mean? Well, to put it simply, it means that the container won't melt or cause the microwave oven to ignite. But it doesn't say anything about whether or not the container is leaching chemicals into your food. So why do so many plastic containers say microwave safe? Well, the truth is, technically speaking, most plastic containers are safe to microwave as long as they don't melt or catch fire. However, this doesn't mean that it's healthy to heat food in plastic containers. In fact, the Society for Plastics Industry calls the microwave safe labeling misleading. This is because the term doesn't refer to any specific test or guarantee of safety. Manufacturers can label their products as microwave safe based on their own judgment and experience rather than on scientific evidence. So what should you do instead? Well, we recommend avoiding reheating food in plastic containers, especially if they're old, stained, or scratched. And always err on the side of caution when transferring leftovers. Never assume that the plastic you're using is safe for microwaving. It's best to use glass or ceramic containers for reheating food, and to only use plastic containers for storage or transport. That way, you can be sure that your food isn't being contaminated by harmful chemicals. This isn't the first time we've gone over the potential dangers of plastic in your food, but it is a reminder that no matter how convenient plastic may be, it's important to be aware of the risks it poses to our health. Heating up leftovers in plastic containers may seem like a quick and easy solution, but it could be putting your health at risk. By understanding the potential harm that plastic can cause, we can make better choices for ourselves and our families. Remember, just because something is labeled as microwave safe doesn't mean it's safe for you. So do yourself a favor and skip the plastic when reheating your meals. But remember, knowledge is power, and the more we know about these potentially harmful substances, the better equipped we are to protect ourselves and our loved ones from their negative effects. That's why we always encourage you to stay curious and keep learning. Your brain will thank you for it. Thank you for watching and staying curious. We appreciate you and see you in the next video. And thanks for sticking with us until the end. If you enjoyed this video, drop an emoji in the comments. And if you haven't already, hit that subscribe button so you never miss out on our latest content. We've got plenty of videos coming your way.